Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. Again, this is Red or Jamie Lachelle, and I have a great collaboration that just was completed this past weekend with a wonderful lady named Tessa Cadet, and she has a lot of great information as far as your whole body wellness. And so we talked a lot about that in our interview, which you'll see here in a minute. There was also some camera glitches going on, so I apologize in advance because you'll see like one of the answers to my questions is kind of cut off. But I'm still learning. You'll get the gist of it and you'll get the main important information. So don't worry. I also wanted to make sure you knew the best website to contact Miss Tessa, and it is www.wwgg.com. So any questions you may have as you're watching this video, you can direct them to her there. Also, this video is not intended for children, so if you are a child, please click away. This is not for you. And I just want to reiterate the main focus of this video is to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and different ways you can do so. So please make sure you're taking care of yourself. I just want to reiterate that. And Tessa, thank you again for sharing your knowledge with me and all my potential audience. If you guys would like to see some more interviews, please comment below and let me know who or what type of interview you'd like to see. And again, thank you so much for your time. Please click like, subscribe, share this with your friends and your family, and I would be so grateful. So enjoy. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. I'm Red, aka Jamie Lachelle, and this is my friend Tessa Cadet.
Hello.
And I'm so excited. We've been working on this collaboration for a while, and it's kind of fallen through, and schedules have been crazy and all this stuff. So I'm super excited that we finally got to make this work today. And so I have a lot of information that I know you guys are going to be interested in, and it's not going to really be coming from me. It's going to be coming from Miss Tessa. So this is the retreat of the Wellness Center, and this is in Hickson. So it's not that hard to find, you guys. And so I thought we'd just start off with a little intro of Miss Tessa, and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into working with the wild woman Locs and your bee steaming and all the knowledge.
Yeah, okay, so I moved down to Tennessee from Ohio about 3 years ago. And when I moved down here, I was actually working in residential care with all boys. And I had a house full of boys and my 2 daughters. And we were working with families in crisis, and being around so many boys, teenage boys, I really felt the need to like gather women and be amongst women. And so I started actually holding sister circles, and which I still do, and I do that monthly. And my husband is from Haiti, and he's always been really supportive of just women empowerment. And our last trip down to Haiti, I was talking with some of the women about vaginal steaming, and they were absolutely shocked to find out that American women do not steam, that's not like a culturally, regular thing that we do. And I too was like, well, what the heck is that? Like, what are we missing out on? And so when I got back to the States, I did my research and I found Kelly Garza with the Peri-Steam Hydrotherapy Institute. And I was absolutely like knew that was my calling. Like I absolutely knew that's what I wanted to do. And so I became certified through Kelly Garza and the Institute, and started and opened up my studio, my vaginal steam studio. And since I've opened up in August, I am with Nutrition World. And since I opened up in August, oh my gosh, like I've seen, over 100 women.
Wow.
I've been invited to different women's retreats. I've held my own, and just vaginal steaming is absolutely affecting and changing women's lives. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what led you to this work to begin with? Like you said, it was that energy you were around, all that male energy, and then you're like, okay, now it's time for a little bit of a shift.
Yeah.
So what was that like spark that was like one day?
It was an
Can you remember it?
Yeah, it's an interesting transition, because when I started circling women, with us being in the South, the agency in which we were working with was not accepting of that.
Right.
And so they gave us an ultimatum, and they said, either you stop circling women, and I was holding menstrual workshops for teens at the time as well. I was working with on the South Side Center for Mindful Living. I was contacted by the partnership, so I was running these menstrual workshops because we worked 7 days on and 7 days off. And so they said, either stop what you're doing and you can keep your jobs, or we want your resignation.
Wow.
And before I even got a chance to process that, my husband was like, you'll have that at 5 o'clock tonight. And I was like, they will? So it was kind of this catapult of him just like being so supportive of what I wanted. And I have these 2 beautiful girls.
Yes,
and I wanted something different for them. I have a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old. And a lot of women, their first menses, their first menarche is a horror story.
Yeah.
And and so much
shock and
trauma and shame around that. And I knew I wanted something different from them. And so that's what kind of led me into everything from womb wellness to sister circles to like rites of passage to the menstrual workshops and circling young girls. And I actually started circling women with a menstrual workshop, and it was wonderful. And I had these 2 70-year-old women show up, and I thought for sure they must have been at the wrong workshop.
Right.
And they said, no, they said, we want to know what this is all about. We are 70 and don't even know what it was all for. And we have daughters and granddaughters, and we want to share this wisdom with them. And that was like it was a profound moment, because I was like, we need to reach them sooner.
Yes.
So I started holding teen workshops. And then I realized we need to reach them sooner.
Yes.
And so that's when I started really holding space for tweens, right at the cusp, right before their first periods. And that's what I believe to be like the age in which we need to be meeting them. They are still like in all of it, like the world has not got their hands on them yet, and morphed it into something that it shouldn't be. And so it just became a really beautiful collaboration.
Foundation for them.
And then that menstrual workshop just led me into everything vaginal steaming. And so now I'm helping women with every gynecological issue and or just self-care practice that you can imagine. Vaginal steaming can address.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of chronic health issues, and a lot of my audience does too. I have endometriosis, I have pelvic congestion syndrome. So those, I would imagine that steaming would be very beneficial for people with chronic illnesses as well, right?
Absolutely. A lot of my clients that I work with are absolutely under the umbrella of endometriosis. And I actually just recently did a podcast with Ed Jones, the owner of Nutrition World, and we were actually talking about this idea with endometriosis that doctors are constantly like, we don't know why women get endometriosis, we don't know why. Yeah. And myself and many pelvic floor specialists are like, we do. And we really believe that it is trauma-based, that a lot of it is trauma-based. And not necessarily, it doesn't have to necessarily be sexual trauma to that space, but our pelvic bowl holds a lot. It's like almost like a dripping. So any trauma, especially with women, we tend to stuff it and keep and hold it there. And so cells are energy, and they have and they hold memory. And so when a lot of women, they didn't have endometriosis at one point in their life, and then they do, and doctors can't give a reason as to why that is, and why we have more endometriosis now than we ever had, or diagnosing. And so a lot of my clients are coming to me under the umbrella of PCOS and endometriosis, and it absolutely is an incredible self-care practice, and coupled with meditation and like really reconnecting with that. There's a lot of women that come to me who start on birth control and then come off of the birth control. We have been so disconnected from that space in our bodies that it has become, stagnant, and our womb is our creation center. And so when women start to have like this stagnation of whether it's just energy or creativity or really life force, a lot of depression, things like that, we need to address the fact that we need to be in touch with our cycles and with our period, and that they have so much good stuff. Like we absolutely, we need our cycles, we need our womb cleanses. And that's really where I'm at with women, is trying to re-educate them from all they know is birth control and antibiotics for when they have issues. And so it's a re-teaching, it's a reframing of this ancient practice. And it's not new. A lot of people are like, what's this new fad? It's not. It is as old as time. They literally can trace it back to the beginnings of Mesopotamia. And so again, and then my husband, his culture and the Haitian people have been doing this and have carried this practice from West Africa all the way here, and it has survived through colonization. It has survived through the revolution. It has survived. So we know it to be, and I always say to women, it's not this like, it can't be an anomaly that women ever, in almost every culture you can find vaginal steaming, even from Hawaii to East Asia to Europe to Africa. Everyone has done it. And I always say women are so intuitive that they would not do something that it did not benefit them. And it would not have been spanned across continents if we did not know collectively that this is the true form of womb health.
Right. And so do you think that because of modernization and because we're told, as soon as you get, you're sneezing, as soon as you get a cut, go to the doctor, we're so used to that we've like forgotten our roots, basically? Yeah,
and we have given our power over. And I've talked a lot about this idea that that I have come to the belief and the realization that I really do not believe men have a place in typical gynecological practice. When we're talking about really advanced surgical things, like I'm so grateful for modern Western medicine, but I really believe that when we give our power to the 2%, who are oftentimes encouraged by pharmaceutical reps who have, and I always say when your health is in your hands, it's the safest and best place that it can be. And so we need, as women, we need to be taking that power back and reteaching ourselves about this, because a lot of women, the moment that they see a certain type of discharge or they see they are in pain, they run to the doctor, right? And that's what we do. We want that antibiotic. Give me the antibiotic.
Quick.
Yeah. We know what's going on. Give me the antibiotic. And it's wiping out not just our pH, like our good flora, but also our good gut flora. And symbiotically, our gut and our vaginal pH are so closely related. And so when women are on many, many rounds in a year because they have chronic UTIs or chronic yeast, chronic BV, we need to look at diet. We need to look at stress and look at the bigger picture. And that's where my roots and my just with my practice, I have a lot of roots in Chinese medicine, and so we're going to be looking holistically at the whole thing. It's not just like, here's this medicine, if it doesn't work, come back and see me. And so we need to take that knowledge back to ourselves and know that we can care for ourselves. And I always say, I believe that if there's a woman in your house, if there is a girl in your house, like everyone should have a V-steam stool, like of some sort, a way to vaginally steam, because it really can, absolutely change your life. Change your life.
What's interesting is that I've started to see like Chrissy Teigen and some other female stars, celebrities, like on their Instagram or whatever, showing them doing some V-steaming, and it's like, wow, that's so cool that it's really starting to
pick
make
up.
a big comeback.
Yes. And I think with like the celebrities. It's important. I think in our culture, especially we're like a very entertained culture, so we keep up with celebrities.
Yes.
And so we're, it's an important step to normalizing.
Yes.
And I'm not the first practitioner in, or facilitator in Chattanooga, but I might have been one of the first to establish a place of business that is like holistically, this is all I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a wonderful gal by the name of Tracy Hilliard who's in Red Bank, who also does Maya and abdominal massage, and she also offers this as an add-on. And for me, but this is like all I do, I work with a select amount of 20 herbs that I have been trained in and that I truly believe to be, I have 5 different formulas that I work with based on what women need, and they come in and they do an intake, and and I really look at their whole health and say, okay, based on what you have going on, this is the blend that you need, and I create custom blends when they come in, so it's not just like this, it's not just like this, and it can't be, it should not be, and but we are I'm from Ohio, so I'm from the north, and so my 3 years. I'm still a baby here, so I'm still kind of catching on and learning the ways of the South, and kind of noticing, how much rooted in ways that women are, and I get why women are like, I've never heard of this. That sounds crazy,
right?
But when you start to educate, it immediately becomes, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Okay, it takes one session of sitting down with a woman and being like, let's really think about this, and what the alternative is. And I often say with your doctors, you go in and they have this really limited toolbox, limited, and we're handing out surgical procedures, invasive procedures a lot more readily than we used to. Hysterectomies are happening for things like endometriosis and PCS a lot more readily.
Yeah, they were trying to push that on me.
Oh yeah, so many women that come in, or just being told women constantly being told because of their fibroids or their cysts, you'll never get pregnant. You'll never be able to be pregnant. If I had $1 for every time a woman came in here and said, I've had 2 kids, my doctor told me I'd never be pregnant. So, and a lot of our doctors are men. And so I always encourage, and I'm also very aware of my scope. So if there's a woman that comes in and it's beyond what I have the scope and ability to assist her in, then I absolutely say, I'm not like anti-modern Western medicine. See your gynecologist. I cannot technically replace any type of care that you need to be seen by a doctor. But
here's a tool for your toolbox.
Yeah, here's a tool, and a toolbox, and a tool that they're not going to ever give you.
Right.
And it's just, I've never, and I am so proud to be able to say this, but I've never ever had a woman that I have seen or facilitated some type of steaming for that whatever she came in with did not progress and get better. I've never had something, come back, or a woman say that it just didn't work. And I teach almost every woman who comes in to see me how to steam at home, because I really believe, and I laugh to myself because so many of my mentors are like, that's bad business. Like, that's really bad for your business. But I'm like, no, but
that adds to your credibility.
Absolutely. I believe that your health should be in your hands. But I also say, even if you are steaming at home, to absolutely, there was like nothing else you took away from this video. Take away this. Absolutely get your herbs, your herbal formula, your herbal blends from someone who knows what they are doing. Do not buy your stuff from Amazon. Do not do it. I didn't, and I wish I had not done it. When I first got into this, and I was like, I'm just going to steam at home. And I had no idea before I went through my certification process. Not a good idea, because if you are someone who has a 27-day or shorter cycle, you need certain anti-hemorrhagic herbs. If you are someone who hasn't seen your flow in 40 days, you need certain cleansing herbs. If you are someone who has a bleeding disorder, you absolutely need to know what herbs you are sitting over. And so it's really, really important. It's really, really important. And so while I'm teaching women to steam at home, I'm always like, just come to me for your herbs. if what you got going on. And if for whatever reason, like you're just right now, you're just doing it once a month as a self-cleansing and getting a really good, and maybe we'll talk about the perfect period and what that means. But if you end up getting an infection, if you have, if you're starting to see some signs of BV or some yeast, come to me. I will create a disinfecting blend for you, so that you're not having to turn immediately to antibiotics, and it can become a preventative measure.
So how often would you recommend somebody do the bee steaming?
It all depends, and I know that's so frustrating because of where you're at. I don't know that I have ever provided the same steam plan to a woman ever. Because and isn't that like also indicative of women? We are so different. Our flows, we were taught to believe that we should average 7 days. Right. That is not true. You should only ever be bleeding for 3 to 4 days. And so, as you can imagine, women come in missing periods, bleed too long, they are seeing brown blood, which is residuals of stagnation, or some are like, I am bleeding 10 days, or some women come in and say, I'm trying to get pregnant, or I haven't seen my period in 3 months. So it's really hard to say, but if you're in a really good place with your womb cleanse, which is what we call a period, if you're really in a good place, then steaming 1 to 2 months right after your womb cleanse and right before your expected womb cleanse, that's a standard time to steam.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that will absolutely cut down on your cramps. It will absolutely hopefully get rid of any brown blood that you're seeing. It will create a 3 to 4 day flow, a light to medium flow. You want to start on fresh red blood. You don't ever want to start anything else. If you're seeing tons of clots in your blood, that's another thing that needs then to be addressed, with someone who is certified. And then also really looking at your products that you're using.
Yes.
Switch out your products. So like I always ask women to come in, like, what are your menstrual products that you're using? And I'm always like, no judgment, because I too use tampons regularly. That was my jam. Like that was my product my go-to product. And once you start to like, again, re-educate what we've been taught, like we're plugging up what's naturally supposed to be happening. So we're like literally plugging it up and creating stagnant blood. And actually what a lot of women also don't know is sometimes it can be you have like a tinge of pain when you're pulling tampons out, especially if you've had them up there, or if you have a lot of vaginal dryness. And that's because it's literally like when you bleed and you were to put a piece of cloth on it, you're tearing it back off. So you're literally creating tears in your vaginal walls when you're pulling a tampon out, and it just creates more of a trauma almost to that space. So I with the Wild Woman Studio, we provide women with cloth menstrual pads. I keep menstrual cups here, and those are the 2 products that I really recommend women switching to, and getting rid of your what I call like over-the-counter pads. So many toxins in that, and they are causing us to bleed heavily and bleed way more than what we would normally bleed. And while a lot of women are like, oh, but we now have like our 100% cotton, but it's still not what we need up in our vaginal areas. No,
because there's all the sticky stuff for the little tabs, and
you still have, and it's still stored in plastic. It's still stored, so the cloth pads a lot of women are intimidated by that, and they're really easy to wash. They're so easy to wash.
Way better for the environment.
And we're like, in the times of millennials, and we're going green, and reducing our waste, and they're absolutely a huge step in doing that for feminine hygiene products.
Nice. I'm gonna have to get a picture or 2 of those.
Yes.
So now you also do these beautiful things. The Wild Woman Locs, which I am in love with.
Are you love them?
Because they come in all kinds of colors and add-ons. You can do feathers and beads and all this kind of stuff.
You might be able to find my pink one that I put in there.
Yeah.
You can pull it out.
Oh,
and I have...
It has like a whole Daenerys thing going on.
Yeah, that's really the vibe that I was going for. Outside of that pink one. Mother of Dragons.
So ladies can kind of customize, or gentlemen can customize kind of how they want to do it.
This was born out of, I have, my husband's Haitian and he's Black, and I have 2 Black daughters, and so I have been, my 10-year-old has beautiful afro, and she has what we consider around 4A to 4B curl pattern to her hair. So her hair grows up and not down. And so through caring for her hair, and when she came out of my vagina, she had a head full of hair. So I've been doing this child's hair for 10 years. Just so much hair. And so just practice with doing her hair, and I really wanted to diversify her hairstyles. And so I wanted to try on myself first before I started to getting into locking her hair or putting synthetic dreadlock extensions in her hair, because it's a protective style. And so I put them in myself and just fell in love with them, and also like fell in love with the you know, if you go back into the genesis, which is found in both Africa and India, the genesis of even Shiva, of having locks, and the reason why, if you're familiar with your chakra energy points, that we are wanting to always keep our energy within us, and also this almost like detachment from a materialistic world. So when I have my locks, and I have them in for a long periods of time, I'm not worrying about my hair every day. I'm not putting heating tools on my hair. My hair has grown faster than it's ever grown. It is the healthiest it's ever been, which is a huge question that a lot of people ask, is, does this damage my hair? Do you actually dread my hair? And I don't. So it's an incredible, and while I guess like with a lot of what I do is rewilding women. And what that means is one more thing that that we can consider. And it is this fascinating phenomenon, because the moment that women get this, get locks from me, I literally have screenshotted it. At some point I might post it. Every single one of them said, I have felt more like myself. I have felt more authentic and like myself with these than I have ever felt before. And it's just, and it creates this confidence.
Because in my opinion, I feel like it takes you back to an older time, to your roots, to your DNA. You know what I mean? And I was going to ask you, I know some people that I have talked to have kind of a personal story or something that happened to them or whatever, and it just made them say, okay, I'm going to get locks, or I'm going to dread out my hair. Is there something like that happened in your mind or in your life that's like, I'm just doing this? Or was it just kind of like, oh, I'm going to try it and see how it goes?
It started off with just the fact that I do, I work with a lot of hair with my daughter, and I do a lot of box braids for her. And so I was already versed in that kind of world of that. But when I first put them on for myself, there is a spiritual component to it. And I don't know that I can like fully articulate that and what I mean by that, but there is, we know that dreads have dreadlocks, and that's actually a newly coined term since it's made its way to the West. It has the genesis all over the world, and of course we know that like our birthplace for humanity is in the cradle of Africa.
That's right,
cradle
of life.
And as it's moved and expanded, and we see even back at the genesis of some major religions like Hinduism, that it has always been a part of cultures. You will see it in almost every culture, and it's interesting because it's been borrowed many times before it ever made its way to America, and what it in the Americas, because where we first found it was in the islands, and that's where we found like Rastafarians, and that actually was borrowed also from a country in Africa, and even from the Hebrews. So a lot of people are familiar with Samson and his powers and his locks, and that's like, and you think of that story and you think, okay, you know, like, okay.
Know your Bible history, Samson.
Yeah, but then when, you know, he has his locks cut off, he loses his strength, but there is something about absolutely an energetic force with them that I can't fully put into like logical words. And I find a lot that even with my vaginal steam practice, I kind of made a commitment to myself and to our village this year that I was constantly like hitting women with the science. Like we have case studies now. We have
this percentage.
We are able to quantify it the way that our modern Western medicine wants us to prove to women that these holistic measures work. And I can, and I absolutely can even talk to you about how like there are entire hospitals in China that are treating women with cervical cancer with entire wings of vaginal steaming. And so like, you know, I constantly felt like I needed to hit women with that. And then it kind of, after kind of being established and people knowing about what I do, there was a huge component missing, which is like this spiritual care and this like reconnecting with our womb space and our ancestral lineage, and like that this is our right. We have a right to these rites of passage and this knowledge and this womb wisdom.
And it should not be shunned.
No, and it should not be looked at as like crazy, or that we shouldn't be feeling an embodiment feeling of shame. But like our blood there's so much that our modern day society is taking from us. They take our placentas, they take stem cell research from that. They are taking our blood is so important and important to us. And at one time, anciently, it was very, very important to the village in a larger sense, and we can get into that at another time. But
like
take my menstrual workshop.
Go to her workshop to learn so much.
Menstrual workshop, because I will talk about all of that so that you can really have the education behind how we got to where we are, where it came from, why we are absolutely, undeniably connected to our moon phases. And I think when I have to remember a lot of times that when I first heard all this, I also was like, what are we talking about? I too was there. I too was like, what the heck is vaginal steaming? What do you mean our cycles are tied to the moon? And what we don't know is that a lot of times our like Latin roots of our words, like moon, menses, they all come from moon.
Yeah, that's called your moon time.
Your moon time, absolutely. Red tent, moon lodge. That we are absolutely undeniably tied to the moon, and that we do have a liquid, a water, a blood form in us, in the same way that we can all accept scientifically that our tide is affected by the moon phases. That we are also of liquid. We are also of that entity, and that we are tied.
Just like the earth is 70% water, so is our body. So.
Yes, and we are tied in that way. And we are absolutely tied to them in the same way that we can all accept that we're tied to the sun, and that vitamin D is good for us, and that when people are sick, they need to be out in the sun and be more in nature. If we can all accept that, especially within the feminine, we need to absolutely accept that there is there's a yin and yang in everything. So for the sun, there's the moon, and we are tied to both. And both men too. But of course, for our purpose of what we're talking about, absolutely with our menstrual cycles.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you have an event coming up today, actually.
I do, yeah. Today is the start back up of my Sister Circle series, and it is called A Returning to Self. And this series is going to take us through up until our really big events that I am so excited about. Which is Rewilding 2020.
That's such a cool name, Rewilding.
Yes. And I'm not the one to have coined it. There's a whole movement, behind this ideology. And there's some really incredible women across the world, but even in the U.S. that are really, with Chris Maddox, I went through her Wild Woman Project, and so I became certified as a circle leader because I really believed in this. I believe in this. This is medicine.
Yes.
Women who come walk out completely shifted.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like they're completely different people, but they're shifted.
Like a different mindset.
It is, where we once gathered in circle constantly. And my husband, being from Haiti and being from a very indigenous people, it's really interesting for him because, we're like organizing and, I have my notes and like whatever we do. And he's like, we just naturally do this.
Yeah, it's just a flow.
It's just a thing that we naturally do in Haiti. And when you don't have TVs and you don't have tons of electronics, people naturally circle and they story tell. And that's what this is really about. When we talk about sister circles and people are like, what are we really doing here? We're sharing our truths. We're sharing our journeys together and being seen and being heard in them. And it's different from like a girls' night, I would say it's a little bit, it's a different energy because it's not it's not this like social interchangeable. Like there is a lot of
it's more spiritual
honor and respect that comes into the circle, and we do this thing what we call counsel, and it's where and it's very adopted into a lot of therapy practices. When you think of therapy circles, like a talking stick, you're not interrupted, you have your moment, and people are holding space for you. We come into a place of non-judgment. We come into a place of committed support. And so, I hold them once a month. Next month, though, for the very first time, I am inviting men
Ooh.
into the space. I'm holding a couples workshop, and this
That's exciting.
Yeah, and this could be men and women, women and women. It does not matter. It's all inclusive. It's gender inclusive, relationally status inclusive. So yeah, we're gonna be. I actually ran this workshop last year. It was called Unlocking Your Sexual Intelligence, and it was for women. And I had to hold it 3 times last year because it sold out every time.
Wow.
And so
awesome.
women kept on like, I want in on this. And so, or like, what is sexual intelligence? What are we talking about? We're so undereducated in our sexuality and just how we relate. And again, our authenticity. We have been so culturally conditioned to hide these parts of self and to not look at them and say society doesn't accept them. But these are absolutely all parts of ourself. We were designed to have passions and to have, to be led into the desires that we have, whether they're sexually or they're not sexual, whether it's our dream job, whether it's the way we want to raise our kids or having kids, it's all connected. And so this is the first time that I am inviting men into the space. I'm nervous and I'm excited. Yeah, so that's next month.
February 25th, I think?
Yes, I think that sounds right. Yeah, I think it's the last weekend in February. And then we'll have sister circles in March and April and May. And then that will lead us to our really big rewilding overnight retreat event that is happening the first weekend of June.
Wow.
Yes, and we have an opening here for the retreat. We now have a Reiki and energy practitioner worker here.
Wow.
And we are holding a grand opening on March 24th. March. It's coming. I'll let y'all know. It's in March. And a goal that I really, really have for this year is, while I also realized within my sexual embodiment workshops that they were selling out, and not only were they selling out, one day is not enough. One workshop is not enough. And so I launched this 7-day online sexual workshop for women, and I ran my beta run in November, and again, it sold out. It was incredible. And I just realized, especially with women coming in for vaginal steaming, they just don't have a place to talk about things, talk about their bodies, talk about sex, talk about whatever they have going on. And we're not really going to our gynecologist and be like, let me tell you about what I got going on with my personal, more emotional life.
Yeah.
And these are parts of self that we have never been taught about. We have never been practiced in. We have never been told it's allowed to be talked about in a comfortable space, or that you don't have to like censor certain things. And so I'm going to be launching. It's the first time I'm telling anybody. I'm going to be launching.
Got some hot tea.
Yeah, you do. I kind of stray from the word coaching because it's so oversaturated right now, but it will be a sexual embodiment one-on-one coaching, like education, where women, because I'm only holding this like online workshop like once a year, and it's just not enough. I can see that it's not enough. And so I want to make it affordable. I want to make it accessible, and for women who really want to take what the foundation that they have been given, completely de-rebel it, completely break it apart, and be like, what do you want from this? Like, you get to design this, and go through some rewilding practices, some sexual embodiment practices, different things that they can use in their life on a daily basis. And it changes not just your sexual life, it changes the way that you interact with everything. We are absolutely sexual beings, and sexual energy isn't just about sex, and that's a big
misunderstanding. Yes.
And so our sexual energy is actually our creative source and our creative energy. And when women are not creating, and it doesn't have to be like art and painting, it can be projects, and it can be journaling. It can be something at work. It can be anything that we are literally using that force to create. And when that is stagnant, which so many women it is, we need to look at those bottom 3 chakras, and we need to be looking at your embodiment practices, like it's okay that we can live in these bodies, and that we can embrace them, and we can love them, and we can accept them. And so I'm going to be free and be wild. Yeah. Yes. And so that's coming this year. I don't have a date that I'm launching it. I'm intuitively feeling it out. I'm working on it right now.
That's okay. What's the best way people can reach you? Like Facebook or?
Website and Facebook. Yeah. Facebook, Wild Woman Studio. Instagram, Wild Woman Studio. Website is www.thewwgg.com.
Awesome.
You might have first heard about me from where the Wild Garden grows, and I have rebranded to the Wild Bloom Studio now that I am collectively offering so many different things than what I had started off offering. So jump on my website. It's all there. Check out the Locs, check out the Bee Steaming, check out the Women's Retreat, check out the Sister Circles. It's all there.
Awesome. And the little, the motto, I think, or your mission statement that I just love, it says, here to inspire and empower women of all ages through connection, education, and celebration, which I love that so much.
Thank you.
So much. So one thing I also really like to talk about on my channel is self-care, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. You know, we hear that all the time. So what is one of, or maybe more than one, of your favorite ways to fill your cup? Because I know you've got so much going on. You're a mama, you know, you got your man, you got so much on your plate. So what is it that you like to do to just take care of yourself, because you're taking care of so many people,
and it's real. Burnout is real. I was gonna and I had to take those last 2 months off because of burnout, because I'm trying to fill and I need to be filled. One, sourcing a women's circle that I'm not leading is huge. To have that support, which I have recently found, and they're like a crone circle. All these women are 60s and their 70s. I'm the youngest one that has been like invited in. I feel really privileged.
That's really cool.
It's been really cool to be like around this crone energy. So sourcing women's circles that I'm not facilitating, and creating a space. I just did this. Really creating a space in my home that is just for me. That I have found that when I bring everyday life, so like at the end of the night, I will make my cup of tea. I will bring it over to my little space that I created in my room. It's just for me, something that's just for me, you know, for no one else. And light a candle, read a little bit, meditate, and just have that little ritual, that routine of having my tea, breathing, getting my essential oils out, and decompressing. And when I do not do that, oh my gosh, the world of difference. World of difference.
It adds up when you don't take that time for yourself.
Or, and also like things like taking full moon, new moon baths, and really reconnecting with my womb, and like and just creating I'm all about creating these really yummy, juicy, like beautiful spaces for women. And so a lot of times I neglect myself. So when I go to create like my full moon bath ritual, it is like I will go buy myself flowers, and I will get my favorite chocolate, and I'll grab my favorite like bath blends, and I'll get my crystals out, you know, and I'll set up this whole beautiful space and just be. I
love it.
That's what I do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with me and with my audience. You guys, please get in contact with her. She's got so much more she can tell you and talk to you about. And thank you again.
You are welcome. So glad to be here.
Yay.